सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज.
The miseries of material existence and the most hopeless conditions of life is the best possible opportunity to turn to God.
Barerupa Bhakti presents The Gift of Desperation, a Bhakti recovery podcast. This is a 12-step based Bhakti-oriented space. Here we share our experience, strength, and hope in the spirit of recovery from addictions and associated behaviors. Welcome. Hello, everybody. I have a very special guest. It's double A wrong. Aaron from the UK, a very dedicated, really sincere devotee in recovery, who's been around the Bhakti Recovery Group for, I don't know, Aaron, how long? 2 years?
Yeah, I think 2 years, maybe a bit more, but very much in and out before that. Yeah.
Right. And actually, it could have been almost 3 years, huh?
Yeah, I came in, I think about 3 years ago, but at that time things were pretty chaotic, so it was
Yeah.
pretty intermittent.
So yeah, and Aaron's back, and he's really stepping up, and I think he's uh, really a shining example of how 12 steps and bhakti can really, not only work in someone's life, but save someone's life. And I'm really honored to have him in the Bhakti Recovery Group, and especially someone who's so service oriented in a very sincere way. So I welcome you, Aaron. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. Aaron also has a wonderful brother who comes to the meeting. It's like Aaron and Sean. I'm always happy to see Sean at a meeting. He's another one of those miracles. So without any further ado, Aaron. So Aaron, why don't you tell me a little bit first of how you came to Bhakti? How did you come to Bhakti?
Okay. Out of desperation, I suppose. I wanted to get sober, although I didn't really know that I wanted to get sober. I knew I wanted to end my misery. Um, I uh I I spent a long time as an atheist. Um, I guess I don't know how far you want me to go back, but
How far, whatever the spirit moves you. I mean, we got time. I
well,
got time.
to just give some context, my father was an alcoholic, and I grew up in quite a chaotic environment, sporadically chaotic. My mum was very stable, but yeah, my father not so much, and he died when I was 11. Um, after or during a schizophrenic episode brought on by alcohol, and
Mhm.
he was taken away by the police during this episode and died after having, don't want to be too graphic, but he was trying to kill my mum, apparently on the instructions of God, and died in a police cell later that night. So from that point on, as an 11-year-old, I decided that I could only trust my own thoughts, and believing in any kind of supernatural or mystical thing uh would be a danger for me. So I really shied away from spirituality, or ran away from anything like that for a long time.
For
And
the for kind of
sorry,
like the fear of yeah, not being able to, why? What, like, what can you remember what caused you to feel that way? To say like, okay, no, I don't, no
so
God, no nothing. Was it more like, if this happens to me, then there can't be a God?
yeah, the I think the reasoning for me as an 11-year-old was, if I don't believe in God, then I can't go mad like my dad did. Um,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't thread that together. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that.
Um,
I'm a little slow. Sorry.
I might not have explained it very well,
No, you
but
did.
um, yeah. So I spent a lot of years just drifting around really, and ended up moving up to or down to Canterbury in the UK to study there. As they talk about in AA, doing a geographical, I felt like I
Mm,
always had a feeling of deep unease and moved away to Canterbury to study, and then that's where my drinking career took off. And after a period of like decline into my alcoholism and drug taking, I got to a point of real desperation, and I saw the Hare Krishnas dancing and chanting on the high street, and I thought they looked happy and I wasn't. So I just followed them and spoke to a monk and a plainclothes monk. I didn't know he was a monk at the time. Um, and he explained to me,
an
so
undercover monk.
yeah, yeah. And he explained to me the concept of spiritual science, which I really liked the sound of, coming from a point of view that I could only really trust in science. I couldn't trust in God or anything that wasn't test two variables and come out with the same result.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, I found myself attracted by that, and it took me another year of sinking into cocaine use and alcohol use. I don't know how many panic attacks later, losing a job, and and then I stumbled through the door of a Sunday Feast program in Canterbury, and pretty much straight away felt. I remember standing at the back of the room and crying because I felt like I'd seen people experiencing love for the first, like, that I'd never seen people experiencing love in that way as they were chanting kirtan. They had the Gaura Nitai devotees at the front and were offering the kirtan to the deities. I didn't understand that at the time, but I could feel this real love connection in the air. And yeah, I kind of got hooked on it from there, the idea of spiritual science. And I
mm,
wasn't into the God stuff to start with, but I knew that there was something in it because they were so happy. And as I kept associating and practicing, then it kind of grew from there. Does that
wow.
explain it? Uh,
Wow. So when was this? How old were you, or how many years ago was that?
uh, it's all pretty hazy. I think that was about 2017, 2018.
Hmm.
Yeah, 2017, I think actually. Yeah, it would have been around then, I think, that I first walked into my first Hare Krishna group.
Wow. Okay. So you just started hanging around with them, or how did it continue from there? Like, did you go to Sunday programs? Did you just go to Prasad, or did you read the books? Like, how did that unfold for you?
Yeah, so I started
And how did that combine with the, drug and alcohol use and
sure.
that?
Yeah. Um in the beginning I was still needing to drink a couple of bottles of beer before I went into a Hare Krishna group. Um and I would go weekly because it was such a different association to what I was used to, hanging out in a dingy bar with a load of people who we're all just there to get wasted. What like it was kind of like pigs at a trough, I think of it. Not to, I don't want to call other people pigs, but it's like that sort of
You felt like a
animalistic.
pig. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like a pig at a trough. Just go, I'm
Hmm.
not there to make a true connection with someone, and I feel guilty about the things that I'd said the night before and all that good stuff. Um, and then I went straight to the contrast of these people not getting high and going there for the joy of just serving. So I went to those weekly, and the guys who introduced me to Krishna consciousness, they were very quick to to engage new people in service. So can you help out with packing the book table away, or can you help out washing plates? And they were very much about engaging people in service. So I quickly got into that, and I sort of developed my part in that group as time went on.
Did you
Um,
understand? Did you understand service? Like, was it just like for you more of like this, okay, I'm going to help people out? Or was it like, did you understand what like service to Krishna was, or you didn't get it yet?
I think I wanted what they had, and
Okay, nice.
the idea of spiritual science being that you put in a certain set of variables and you come out with a result, and hearing that service was a massive part of that was like, okay, if I want to be happier, then I need to serve more, or I need to be
Mm.
serving when I'm asked. And the combination of that and the desperation that I was feeling in my life situation, where I felt like I tried a lot of other things. I'd studied different philosophies and um, tried all different kinds of fads to try and be happier, and none of those had worked. So I really wanted to give it a good try. And yeah, so I kind of picked up the idea of service through that. But I think growing up as well, I've always enjoyed cooking for people. And maybe like there's I was more selective in the past. For sure, I was more selective in the past about what services I like to do and what I don't like to do. But I think I did have that inclination towards service, but for sure, like that Hare Krishna spiritual science, if I want to be happy and develop my consciousness, then I need to be able to serve, be willing to serve.
Nice. So you did this kind of steadily. Did you have like a permanent commitment? And how is that like, how did that start changing your life, and how did it start affecting your drinking and your drug use?
Um, I remember uh when I first started going to the meetings, I'd have to uh slip out for a cigarette, or I'd be gagging for a cigarette at the end by the end of the meeting. And
You
as
mean
time,
what meeting? A BRG
oh
meeting or?
sorry, but no, to Bhakti, to a Hare Krishna meeting.
Okay, okay.
Are we talking about Hare Krishna meetings
Yeah, yeah, we are.
still? Yeah,
We
yeah,
are.
yeah.
We are. But I just,
Yeah.
I had never really heard it that way in a meeting. I just got confused.
Sorry,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah, I get them kind of mixed up now. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
so do we.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
inseparable at the moment, right? It's totally inseparable, the 12 steps in Bhakti. Anyway, great. Okay, go
yeah,
ahead. Sorry.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
I think in some sense I was trying to treat, although I wasn't ready to approach my recovery at that point, I was trying to treat a uh, Hare Krishna Sangha as a meeting, although I
Mhm.
didn't understand that at the time. But yeah, in the beginning, I I had to go. I couldn't go to the meeting without having a drink first, to the Sangha.
Mhm.
And I'd need a cigarette as soon as I finished the Sangha as well. But I found that that started to get less over time. It didn't ever completely go away. Uh, but yeah, it did get quieter over time.
Wow. Okay. And so the drinking and the drug use, started, how did that start affecting, how did that bhakti start like taking your fun away? Or you're not fun, or you're I always say like meetings will ruin your drinking forever. So
Yeah,
and vice versa. Nothing worse than a belly full of booze and a head full of AA. So I guess it's kind of the same,
yeah.
head full of bhakti and belly full of tamas.
I remember feeling a lot of shame around that.
Mm,
Um, I remember knowing that what it made sense, the four regulative principles. I know intoxication was the sort of main one for me that I picked up on at that time. And so I would separate the two to start with. Um, I would go out drinking on the weekend and talk about my spiritual experiences, but then turn up on the Sunday and be clean there for that time and just sort of live. I guess yeah, I kind of lived them separately.
So how
Um,
did, okay, go
so
ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead.
And then I suppose a bigger divide came when um there was a group of us forming, all similar ages, of people who were interested in serving the Sangha, and it was two initiated devotees who were running this program. Um, and there was a group of us, about four or five of us, who were steady going, and between us we came up with, or well, the initiated devotees proposed the idea of starting an ashram in Canterbury, and that's when I had to get sober, really. Um, I went into the ashram involved with someone. I'm not sure I'd call it a relationship as such, but uh, I was I was involved with someone romantically. Um, and still then when
Was it a
I'd
devotee?
no, with someone, yeah, not someone that I'd met on a dating app.
Okay.
Um, and I'd go and see her on the weekends and get wasted there, and then kind of make excuses for myself that at least I'm not doing it in the ashram, and then go and live clean in the ashram. And I wouldn't smoke while I was in the ashram, but it was, they call it a halfway house in the devotee community, of like it's not, we were paying the bills for the place, so each of us would be going out and working. Well, there was a couple of students there, but so when I was out working, then I'd be smoking. But then when I went back to the ashram, then I'd be supposedly living clean. So I
Mm,
was still kind of living this double life, and
mm,
um, I I think it was only a month or two into the ashram that this relationship survived, and I by that point, I was just getting blackout when I had access to intoxicants, and so I got blackout once with her, and she rightly asked me to leave. Um, and then that's when I properly got sober, uh, living in the
mm.
ashram because I didn't
How
have
did you
anywhere
do
to
that?
go. And how did I get sober?
You just white knuckled it?
I think the group influence. I don't remember it being a massive struggle to stay away from the alcohol, but I always needed something. Like I needed
Like weed or
e
something?
energy. No, I cut out any of the
Illegal
drink or
intoxicant.
drugs.
Mm.
Yeah, but I would need to drink energy drinks. I would need to have cigarettes, and
Mhm.
I remember going and binging on garlic hummus and uh,
Binging on
uh,
garlic hummus.
yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry for laughing. I'm not laughing
No,
at
no,
you.
no. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's a strange insanity that we have. Like it was, I knew that I needed to have something illicit, although it was sort of
Mhm.
flying enough below the radar that I wasn't hung over in the ashram or anything
Right.
like that.
So when did you discover BRG? When did you discover 12 steps? Did you know anything about 12 steps? How did that happen for you? When did you realize, okay, so then why, so yeah, so then like my question, the next question would be, so if everything was going fine, why didn't it just stay that way? Why did you come to the BRG? What happened?
Well, the way I describe it in the AA rooms, like when I'm sharing, if I share around that topic, then I describe it as being like a pea under the mattress. I was sober, but I wasn't mentally sober. I was very much a dry drunk, as they say in
So
like
you're
recovery.
white
White
knuckling
knuckling, yeah,
recovery.
yeah. I don't remember it being a big struggle to not have the alcohol, but there was so much denial there that there was a
Mm,
constant anxiety there that I
mm,
always had to be busy doing something, serving
yeah.
and going out and book marathons or cleaning the kitchen for hours on a Sunday, always busy doing something. And uh, the ashram, I moved out after a year. It didn't last for a long time. The whole ashram. Uh, but yeah, I moved out after a year from being there. and pretty much instantly got into a relationship again from a dating app. It's like a codependency thing coming in. I think I always felt like I had needed to have someone there.
Well, it is
I,
the person, places, and things that we try to fill that God-sized hole with, all those nouns,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah. And I slipped very quickly back into the old patterns of drinking. I felt like I'd spent some time in an ashram chanting, so I'd be better. That I'd purified myself in some way, but yeah, just slipped very quickly back into that again. And the male initiated devotee, it's a married couple. Um, I remember asking him, "Are there any other devotees who have problems with addiction?" And because at that time I felt like I was the only one. But he told me about the Bhakti Recovery Group, and
Mm.
I can't remember exactly when that would have been, 2019, around 2019, I think, something like that. Um, I think I went to one or two meetings at that time. Um, and uh yeah, that's when I first started coming. But I was drinking so much when I first came to the Bhakti Recovery Group. It's all quite hazy because I just like I say I just slipped back into the old patterns, and that relationship broke down pretty quickly that I got into. And uh yeah, so it was all pretty hazy. The first Bhakti Recovery Group meetings that I came to, I was having to lean off the camera or turn the camera off to drink whiskey. um at that point it felt like anything positive that I would try to do, it would amp up my addiction, um like it was trying to keep me. So yeah, I sort of came sporadically in the beginning to the Bhakti Recovery Group meetings.
And did that do anything to you? I mean, when you got there, what did you feel like when you got to you said it's kind of hazy. So when was it, like, let me be more specific about my question. When or if and when was it that when something clicked and you were like, okay, I get it. Like this is when, this is serious. Like this is definitely bona fide program. I don't mean BRG, just 12 steps, something bona fide.
12 steps. I think it was a combination of things that led me to being willing in the first place. But there was a really big resistance for me to even face anything like that. My first AA meeting was, I think, about 6 or 7 years ago, uh, right about the time that I joined the Hare Krishnas, but I decided it wasn't for me back then. There was like one firebrand guy, old guy there, and I just decided it wasn't for me at that point. I think what the Bhakti Recovery Group did for me was to help me to open up to the idea of using something that's not branded ISKCON Krishna consciousness, uh,
Mm.
because I was taught uh, all you need is Prabhupada's books, and all you need is to chant Hare Krishna, and that's it. Um, which I still believe that there's truth to
Yeah,
that, but there's also
there is
nuance.
truth. It's ideally, yes. Ideally,
Yeah,
yes. That's the final answer, ideally. But not
yeah,
everybody is born in the fortunate position to get to get there in this life. Some people need extra help. We're on the
yeah,
small bus, Aaron. Aaron, you and I, we're on the small bus.
yeah, yeah. Like a combination of the Bhakti Recovery Group and a friend that I'd met while still in like halfway through my drinking career. He'd got sober, and I happened to work with him for a couple of months, and he helped 12-step me, um, combining like the Bhakti Recovery Group showing that we can use something else, and my gift of desperation as well. It was, I think, I don't remember it being a real conscious decision. It's just I knew that there was a moment where it clicked, and I knew that I needed to get somewhere to get help. Otherwise, I'm never going to get out of this. And I fell through an AA door. Um, I'm not sure how often I was going to Back to Recovery Group meetings at that time, but they had planted the seeds there. And I remember the first time I walked through an AA door, um, that I had the same heart feeling of congregational love that I did when I first went into a Hare Krishna meeting.
Mm.
And I felt like I was in the right place because there was all these
Oh.
people that they were like from homeless people to lawyers and everything in between. Uh, and they didn't have the Bhagavatam and they didn't have the Bhagavad Gita, but they did have a better connection to a higher power than I did. So I knew that, and I
There
also
was
knew
something
that
there.
devotee association just wasn't something that I could access at that time because the amount of shame that I piled on top of myself.
Mm.
Um, and I didn't feel understood at that time because it didn't seem to me like other devotees suffered with addiction problems. So yeah, I didn't feel like it was a like completely my choice to turn up there, but turning up there and experiencing it, I suppose in the same way that I wasn't into the God stuff when I got into the Hare Krishna stuff, but I saw the proof of the pudding was in the eating. In the same way, when I actually went to an in-person AA meeting, I saw that it's working for people. Like you could see the glint in people's eyes, and that they'd managed to get sober, they'd managed to be happy. And I think going to recovery and seeing how well it worked, then that really reinforced for me that I owe something to the Bhakti Recovery Group. I owe a lot to the Bhakti Recovery Group for helping to open me up to the idea of recovery.
Mm. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah, I owe my life. My second thing at life was definitely bhakti. My first bottom was life or death, like literal physical life or death, physical, spiritual, and mental, but really physical because I was just broken. And the second time, well, of course, spiritually also, but the second bottom I hit in my life was a spiritual bottom. And
Mm.
Bhakti saved that for me as well. So I've been fortunate enough to hit such tremendous bottoms that I was so open to be able to welcome these kind of things in my life. I know it sounds weird and counterproductive, and nobody really wants to hit huge, horrendous bottoms in their lives. But of course, I mean, it would be great. It would have been. I can't even say it would be great if it didn't happen. And I got those, and I got the same realizations. I don't know. It's just I look at it as a gift, like you said. It's the gift of desperation. I'm a complete, not only a believer, an experiencer, and I think you're one of them. I certainly saw you when you first came in, and how different you are now, and how much healthier you look, and how much more fit you are. And I don't mean fit in the English sense. I mean fit. I
No,
mean,
I knew what you mean.
yeah. Not that you're not a handsome man. I didn't mean it that way. Um, he's fit, right? Right, love, he's fit.
Yeah. Bit tasty.
Bit tasty. Yeah. So, so yeah, I love to see when that kind of thing happens. I mean, I kind of saw, I knew when you were at meetings at first, it was just, you had a whole nother energy about you. It was there was a lot of, I could see a lot of pain. And makes sense when you say you used to turn, I used to see you fidgeting all the time and then turning away from the camera. So I guess I know what you were doing now. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you stuck it out. And I'm so glad that you're with us to this, to this day, and doing service, and showing up more and more for Bhakti Recovery Group, and giving back what you received.
Yeah.
But how is it for you now? Like, what if like what is something really powerful in your life right now that you're learning? What is a lesson now that you're in the middle of learning, or something that you've learned in the last, or experienced, or in the last, months? What is it for you? Is there like one topic?
Mm. Um, uh, that's a difficult one. There's always something. There's always some kind of growth going on. Um,
Mm.
some kind of painful growth hanging off my face. Um, yeah. Uh, it's
Rose hanging off my face.
yeah. Um, yeah, I guess resentment management or um
Mm.
that's been a massive one for me. I think in recovery I didn't realize how much denial I was in. I was never outwardly an angry person as a drunk. I was always to other people relatively pleasant, if not a bit messy. Um, but I learned how much denial I was in through recovery. Um,
Mm.
and then learning how about that denial then kind of opened the gate to me being able to identify actually I'm angry uh, about things, and then learning to kind of tame that over time has been a struggle, but also a journey of learning about myself.
So how
Um,
have you been doing that? Like, what are some of the suggestions that you've taken in the program? Like, how are you,
uh,
like the 90/90, the sponsor, the step work? Like, what are the things that have been working for you? The tools.
well, I think something that really helped to change my perspective on resentments for people, places, or things is step four. Uh,
Mm.
Before I started laying it out, I remember trying to think back about some resentment in the past and feeling certain that I was vindicated in that. And then when I wrote it down on paper and saw my character defects and then how it affects me, I kind of saw how stupid it was, how that I was holding on to those things for so many years. Um, so yeah, step four really helped to change that. Uh, Being willing to
So
do
we made
service.
a searching and fearless moral inventory of
Yeah,
ourselves for
sorry, yeah.
those who
Yep.
don't. No, no, no worries. Just for those who, I know we know we're talking about step four, but
Yeah,
often we have some beginners perhaps who don't know. So
sure.
yeah, so that's great. Have you been, did you do step works with someone in BRG or did you do step work just with a regular AA? You have a sponsor, I know that.
Yeah, I have a sponsor in AA. His yeah, direct AA member. When I first got into AA, I still had this crippling shame around devotees, and for a while I even found it difficult to come to BRG to be around any devotees. Um, I felt like I could only do AA for some time. And I held back from getting a sponsor for quite a while because I felt like they should be vegetarian, they should be into meditation, blah blah blah, like all this sort of they should be a Hare Krishna basically. But I was never going to find an in-person Hare Krishna uh person in Canterbury. Um, so I kind of reached the point of desperation again, and my sponsor, who is now my sponsor, came up to me at the end of a meeting where I could feel my share was pretty dry and I didn't have much substance because I wasn't working the program. I was turning up and doing some service and stuff, but I wasn't actually doing any of the steps. And he said, Aaron, with love, for God's sake, get yourself a sponsor. And he was,
I love it. I love it. See, this is what I love
yeah,
about the program. It's just like these just people that we just shoot from the hip. I love it.
yeah,
So go
yeah.
ahead. Sorry.
No, no, it's good. Yeah, so he uh he was the only guy that I'd been sort of thinking maybe he's someone I could ask because he seemed chilled out and he had a cool haircut as well. And that was about as deep
He
as
had a
my
good haircut.
yeah, yeah, that was about as deep as my scoping had gone in that room. But because he'd asked me and because I felt like I was floundering at that time, I felt like that was Krishna telling me to just sort of take the plunge. And he's still my sponsor today. And I think
Oh, fantastic.
that's also I think that's been really helpful for me in my recovery to not be so kind of excluding about someone on their surface details because he eats meat and he's not into a personal conception of God. and um he's not like aligning with Hare Krishna stuff as such, but he's he's helped to keep me sober. He's been there whenever I'd needed to talk to him, and it's just worked, and that really confirms the potency for the program for me is that
Mm.
he's also never tried to influence my spiritual life. So I don't feel like I've had to compromise anything about my Hare Krishna founding. But he's helped me to learn the program, and I'll always feel grateful to him for that.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think that that's really important, especially for. So to get back to that, actually, I wanted to ask you. So, what was it that was blocking you from sharing this kind of thing? You said you would even have it. It was even kind of hard. You're like compartmentalized AA and kept AA over here, and you kept the devotees over there. So, what do you feel was the reason for doing that? Besides from shame, I know you said you talked about the shame, and is there anything more that and what anything more than shame, and also what clicked in you to finally take that plunge and be like, no, you can't save your face and your ass at the same time. So what was it for you?
Yeah, I think there was also a feeling of overwhelm. I felt like I was putting so much effort into going to AA meetings that I didn't feel like I had space to be going to temples or to be doing anything else really. I wanted to get that down and solid um before but I knew that I wanted to get back to Krishna or back to Krishna consciousness. Uh so but I had a feeling that if I could get myself stable enough then maybe I could come back. Uh
Mm,
Maybe Krishna would let me back into the association of devotees, which has happened.
right, right. Well, that makes sense.
I don't feel that same burning shame uh that I did back then. I don't feel ashamed in front of the devotees anymore.
Wow. And so if you go to, let's say if you go to a temple, if you go, that's right. I mean, you just did, let's talk about that, man. We never even talked about that. I want to talk about how that went at the manor. I mean, Jesus, from you not wanting to combine those worlds, and then all of a sudden standing in front of a whole bunch of people at the manor. I don't even know how many people were there, and talking about the Bhakti Recovery Group and just being there and breaking your anonymity. A, how did that empower you? B, how did that empower others? And C, how the hell did it go? We never really had a conversation. So how was that?
Right. Yeah. Well, it was an honor to be asked in the first place, going from 2 years ago where I couldn't even keep clean underwear or brush my teeth or clean my
Mm.
room to being trusted to go and speak on behalf of the Bhakti Recovery Group was a big honor for me. So,
Well, you put in the work, you did. And I saw you grow. I saw the growth. And I think that, yeah. Anyway, go
yeah.
ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, it's so it was empowering in that respect that I felt my AA services as secretary and GSR they were both coming up for rotation. I've rotated
Mhm.
out of my secretary service now at my other home group. Um, and when those were coming up for rotation, then these service opportunities for the BRG were coming up. So it felt like a real confirmation from Krishna that I'm kind of at least graduating my undergraduate and or getting some kind of like qualification to be able to be useful to the devotees. And that was
Right.
always a desire within AA, my time sort of just doing the AA stuff that I could hopefully help one day help the devotees and being able to go and speak in front of the temple devotees like that. It was uh yeah, empowering in that way that I was able to speak to the wider community, and breaking my anonymity wasn't a problem for me at all because I didn't feel like I had any reputation to protect, or I don't feel like I have any reputation to protect. So I don't really, I'm quite open about my AA membership. If people have the ears to listen, like I'll
So
talk about.
Do you feel like you were warmly welcomed there? And did a lot of people come to you and ask afterwards, like, what is that? And how many
Yes,
people were there?
certainly the organizers gave us a very nice welcome. Yeah, yeah. And they were very thankful that after the talk, they were saying it was very heartfelt. I was terrified when I was up on the stage. There was about I think maybe about 50 devotees in the room. The reception after from individual devotees was a little mixed. There was some were very happy that they'd found Krishna consciousness. Sorry, that they'd found an intersection between recovery and Krishna consciousness.
Hmm.
There's one Prabhupada disciple there that had been doing recovery for a while and was grateful that we exist. And I hope that's not approaching breaking anonymity, but
No,
um,
there's no.
and uh, there was also yeah, there was a couple of guys who were very grateful for that, and then there was also some guys who were on the institutional mood as well. Like what there was one devotee after said that uh basically kind of dismissed the recovery program and said that I had bags under my eyes and I should drink vegetable juice uh to stay sober or so. I don't know what the vegetable juice thing was about, but um yeah, she wasn't they weren't really um yeah, I don't know, just that sort of institutional thing.
Yeah,
Told me to do sun salutations and drink vegetable juice, which is that's fine. That's just where they're coming from. They
sure.
admitted freely that they couldn't understand what it's like to be an addict, and that's the whole thing of the recovery program is that
Yeah,
it's confounding to people who don't understand what it's like to be losing control of your bowels but still drinking and still using, uh,
yeah. I
and
don't
to have
think people
lost
get
everything.
that. Yeah, I don't think they get that at all. But they don't have to, that's the
No,
thing. That's why there's no comparison. And, I'm learning one of my biggest lessons at the moment now. It's always been a lesson, but this is even bigger lesson at the moment is this. By me comparing myself with someone else is probably the most irrelevant and waste of time thing that I can possibly do. Because each and every person has their own prescribed karma. Now, I have been gifted the desperation thing. Maybe you've been gifted the gift of desperation to get us to a certain place. Other people don't need that. Other people are born with other karmas. They're born with other anartas. They're born with other advancements. They're born with other stuff. So there's no use or no intelligent reason or emotional reason or even scientific reason, because scientifically it's like apples and oranges. We don't need to compare it. So that's
mm,
kind of the biggest lesson that I've always known that in my head, but I'm starting to truly incorporate that in every cell of my being at the moment.
sure, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a big like AA's full of these like one-liners and direct phrases, and that's I suppose a big realization for me alongside the resentment stuff was to keep my own side of the street. Um,
Clean.
and it's not always easy to do, especially when someone's making personal comments about bags under my eyes. But uh, but
Thank you. Thanks
yeah,
for sharing.
yeah,
Thanks for sharing. I'll take a sip of juice on the way out.
yeah, yeah. But it's the only thing that I can ever have control over is to worry about
Mm,
myself. I can't change what other people are thinking. Um, that's a big reason for me to excuse my drinking in the first place is to think if everyone else just behaved the way that I wanted them to, then things would be okay. And that was just part of my delusion. So all I can do is
absolutely.
worry about my side of the street.
It's so true. And if everybody did that, then we would have a very strong community, a very compassionate, beautiful, strong
Yeah.
community. And that's the most important thing. And it's also important to understand that no one has walked in anyone's shoes. When I start hating people, and I say I'm not talking about like, I'm not talking about like hating, like I want to hurt somebody. I'm just talking about like sometimes I have a deep dislike of somebody. They haven't done anything, but there's just this thing where I'm like, you are like, I've got a couple of trigger personalities that trigger me beyond belief. And whenever that happens, it's that I am not seeing that this is a part and parcel of God. All I'm seeing is their material body and their material conditionings and their all of that stuff. And maybe some other person seeing me that way. And I'm okay with that, actually. I would like to stop this nonsense. But there are just people, there are just certain personality traits that get me going. And all I want to do is get away from them. And we have this great expression in German. It's called go with God, but just go. So that's kind of what I'm trying to just avoid people like that. I don't have to be around people like that. I have a choice. And I can also, and that's the thing, and that's what the program helps me. I can have healthy boundaries. That's what we're trying to do. Get healthy boundaries around the things that either trigger us or don't, until we're able to have that vision of everybody being a part and partial and in treating everyone as so. We have a program.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that AA rooms have really helped me with that. I know previously, bit previous to recovery, it was easy for me to think of everyone else as karmis. Anyone else who's not not wearing a dhoti or not a air quotes Hare Krishna is just a karmi. And going in almost at gunpoint from my addiction, and being forced to sit there because I knew I needed to be there or die.
Mm.
I knew I needed to tolerate the crazy characters that you sometimes meet in the in-person AA meetings. Because there are some colorful characters and we won't get on with everyone. And there's like two guys that used to really get on my nerves when I first went into the AA rooms, but over time, they've kept going every week, and I've kept going every week. They try and work their program the best that they can, and I've actually grown a lot of fondness for them over time.
Mm.
And also seen them develop over time as well. So like I feel like it's like a training arena for me, the AA rooms, for real life, because people share from the heart and generally share from the heart, and there will be conflicts that come up, but that's where we're all in that consciousness of AA unity. And that it's a room full of sick people, because I remember complaining to my sponsor about person A or person B, and he would say, "You've got to remember it's a room full of sick people." And I think that's something that I try and I do struggle sometimes, but it's something I try and bring my mind back to. If someone is really getting under my skin, I try and remember that they're just trying as well. They're still trying to do recovery. They're trying. I think it's Brené Brown said something that I really liked. She said that her life, I can only paraphrase it, but she said something like life got a lot easier for her when she assumed that everyone's trying their best. And I think that's a fair assumption to make. Even yeah, I mean, it just makes things a bit easier. Because it's none of my business whether they are or aren't doing what I think they should be doing. I
Yep.
can still fall into that now with, especially as
Mm.
a secretary of a group or having a service position and seeing other people not turning up because they want to go to the cinema or they want to go and do something that's not recovery related. I can't have any control over that, but also I spent so many years just doing nonsense, and all I can do is my bit of service, and it's not for me to try and control other people's way of thinking, so like, or way of doing things. So AA kind of helps me to train to stay on my side of the fence.
It's a good thing. It's such a good thing. And it's also it teaches us humility. Practicing
Yeah,
those things teaches us humility. In order to be humble, we have to practice humility. And how do we practice
yeah,
humility? We recognize it first. And when
Yeah,
we recognize that we're not being humble, when we recognize we're getting, on our high horse, measuring other people with our yardsticks.
sure.
The worst thing you could do to me is measure me with your yardstick. I will go ballistic on you. But I do it all the time. I measure everyone with my yardstick. It's like, I got this situation with my neighbors. We've got two new neighbors, and I'm like the nasty old lady in the house because like the two new neighbors are just doing things that civilized people shouldn't be doing. And I'm all up on my high horse getting totally pissed. Like, how can you possibly be so selfish? How could here's like, we all live here together and you're taking up, you've lived here for 2 weeks and you've already taken up all the garbage for the whole house for yourself for the last 2 weeks, which is absolutely selfish. And we've asked them not to do it and they just keep doing it. So that's the kind of thing. And that's the kind of thing that can get me totally angry and make me put my recovery aside. Make me put aside, when I say I put my recovery aside, I mean, I'll get up in your face and be like, yo, or, which I don't really do anymore, but, or I forget that they're part and partial, and just because we can see people are part and partial doesn't mean that we let them do things that are, you know, walking over our community or something. But
Yeah.
it's just how we do it, how we do it. And that's what this is all about. It's so important. These are like some of the like most important lessons here in Maya. And when you were talking about before, when you said, always coming back to this is a sick, these are sick people. We're in a room full of sick people trying to get better. We're in a world full of sick people and half of them aren't trying to get better. They're trying to do the
Yeah.
best they can. I think everyone's trying to do the best they can. But, that's where I see it very differently. Most people are like, oh, I'm not an addict or I'm not this. And I'm like, yeah, but you're suffering. If you're living here, you suffer. And maybe that's a little forward of me, but that's what I know from scripture and that's what I've experienced. So, anyway, that's neither here nor there. Sorry about that. Just went off on a rant. Double A Ron. All right. So it's been over an hour, huh? We've been going at it.
Yeah.
So, is there anything you'd like to, when wrapping this up, is there anything you'd like to relay to anyone or share like something, one of your realizations or anything that you would like to say before wrapping up?
Um, One phrase that sticks with me that's helped me in my recovery is to get out of your own way when it comes to recovery. Um,
Mm,
the more I do things that I don't want to do, that I don't think I don't want to do, uh, that's usually the stuff that I need to do. Um,
mm,
especially when it comes to recovery. Follow the suggestions and just try it. Just like in the same way as Prabhupada said, just try it and see what the result is. Try the suggestions as they're given, uh, and try that for a decent amount of time. Try it for a month, and if it doesn't work, we'll refund you your misery.
I like that one. Yeah, I remember that one. So, for any devotee who's out there who thinks that they could benefit from them and benefit from this, and and wants to, but just can't for some reason, like they're just too embarrassed or too ashamed, what would your suggestion be?
Um, well, online can be a great way to start out, just to get some inspiration and to not feel like you're exposing yourself too much. But I would definitely recommend in-person meetings if you want to make a real difference. Um, Certainly that's been key to my recovery. And if any, like for me, I had that massive doubt of, oh, I'm betraying Krishna or the devotees if I'm trying anything outside of Krishna consciousness. Um, Reminds me, or to me, I remember that there's a story about Prabhupada. He was getting ill, and he saw a doctor who wasn't a devotee, and the doctor said that the old man prays too much and that he needs to get some exercise. And Prabhupada had the humility to accept that advice to look after his body so he could to be healthier. And if Prabhupada hadn't have accepted that advice, then we wouldn't have the morning walks, which are such a cherished thing among the devotee community now. The morning walk talks, like recordings. Prabhupada always would say about dovetailing, anything can be dovetailed in Krishna consciousness. So to try the recovery program and see how that fits with bhakti, I've never had to compromise anything about my Krishna consciousness. It's only ever enabled my Krishna consciousness. So
Wonderful. That's beautiful. So would you be willing, just, if anyone would like to reach out in the UK who needs to talk to Aaron, you can just email me. And Aaron, would you be willing for me to give
absolutely.
out your contact? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be more than happy to reach out to it, or for anyone who wants to reach out to me. Yeah, of course.
Okay. Fantastic. So I think in the beginning of the show and at the end of the show, we say the Gmail, but it's Bhakti Recovery Podcast at gmail.com. And that's Bhakti Recovery Podcast at gmail.com. And if you're in the UK area or even in Europe or wherever, it doesn't matter where you are actually, please, and you like what Aaron has and you want what Aaron has, or you like what he's saying and you would like to reach out to him, just write us an email and I'll get you Aaron's contacts. So Aaron, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure. Yeah, I'm so glad you came. Thank you. We need to encourage other people to come on now too. Go poke your friends. Go poke everyone. Yeah. Poke everyone in the BRG. Tell them they got to come on the show. All right. So it's almost Christmas. So I wish you really all the strength that you can possibly get. Oh, are you the one chairing the Christmas meeting? Who's chairing the meeting on Christmas?
I haven't checked that far ahead, but I will be if it is on Christmas Day, my meetings. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone had said someone that is chairing on Christmas Day. That's Monday.
That will be me on Christmas Day then. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Head coder.
So, yes. So thank you so much. And if you need help with that, it's me. You just need to remind me.
Sure. No, yeah, that's fine. Thanks for reminding me. So yeah, I'll have access to Zoom. So yeah, that's all good.
Okay, cool. All right. So BRG every single day online. And that's it. So thanks so much, Aaron. Don't hang up. I'm just gonna stop the
Sure.
recording. Okay.
Thanks, Gina.
Haribo. Thanks so
Haribo.
much. Haribo. This concludes another episode. Thanks for listening. In order for me to serve this community to the best of my ability, I welcome feedback. Please write your feedback at bhaktirecoverypodcast@gmail.com. That's bhaktirecoverypodcast@gmail.com. Also, please don't forget to follow and give us a 5-star rating. Share this with family and friends. If you'd like to join our Bhakti Recovery community or just find out what we're all about, please visit our website at www.bhaktirecoverygroup.com. That's www.bhaktirecoverygroup.com. There are no dues or fees, and we meet daily. If you or someone you know is struggling with addictions and/or associated behaviors, you will find links in our show notes to various 12-step programs. Nobody seeking recovery need ever be alone again.
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज.
The miseries of material existence and the most hopeless conditions of life is the best possible opportunity to turn to God.